I'm the kind of Carpenters fan who knows the difference when I hear it. If I'm listening to the album version of Ticket to Ride or the singles 69 to 73 version of Ticket to Ride because it was re recorded. Uh, and I still have all of the Carpenter albums that my mom had, but I also have the entire discography. She only had a couple, so I filled it all out over the years. Would have been about 98 or so. There was a message board. It was an email forum kind of thing where you would go in and you'd read all of these comments and like respond. It was very, very different. It's almost hard to remember how that all worked. But this is how I was able to meet people and ask questions. And I actually have albums that were sent to me from a fan in California. It was through that fan group that I got VHS cassettes of the a few interviews that they did. I got a lot of cool stuff from people, and I also kind of learned a little bit about who they were as people in as much as I realistically could. And I just feel like making this little video to be like, right, back in the day, I remember people commenting that it was like this, it was a huge tragedy, obviously, that she died so early in life. And, but why didn't she just eat? Come on, just eat. Because back then, even then, people didn't understand eating disorders are not about food. Eating disorders are about power and control and having some sort of sense of autonomy over yourself in a circumstance where you feel like everything is being controlled for you. When people notice you lose weight, they tell you, and it's usually quite positive at first. uh, and it makes you feel good, and it reinforces the behavior that nobody knows you're doing, but you know you're doing it. So awesome, you know. In my case, it was other substances getting involved. For me, it was like this inner bully that was like, oh yeah, how about you drink an extra, double of vodka? Uh, how about you take this many more pain pills with it? It's this envelope that you're pushing, uh, and it feels fun to do that. It feels like raw power. It really does. It feels like getting behind the wheel of a performance vehicle and just flooring it and being like, whoa, blown back in your seat. And you're just like amazed, right? With all this horsepower going on. It's similar. And when you survive something, you know, that gives you, it kind of emboldens you to go back and try it again. And if you're feeling up to it, you can add a little extra danger to it. In my case, I should not be drinking and taking opioids every single day of my life. This is not healthy, and this is not what a normal person does day to day, but it's the only power and control I feel that I have. So I'm going to do that. I think it's important to comment about it from my perspective right now, because when I was first listening to their music and learning all of these things, and indulging in certain behaviors that were similar, I was a lot younger. I didn't live with longevity in mind. Now that I am older than her, it's easier for me to look back on my own personal history and go, right, I did the things that I did because I come from this background. In watching documentaries, especially the earlier ones from the 90s and kind of up until like the mid 2000s, those ones were very much the kind of documentary where it's this, terrible tragedy that she died, rightfully. That's not a problem, but it's very much a dominant theme. And the other dominant theme that goes along with it to make the narrative kind of, I don't know, more palatable somehow is this inclination to vilify Agnes Carpenter, she was Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter's mother. It was just easier to yeah, just to vilify my parents and try and like find resolution. I also wanted to make this video as well to say, like, though there's this inclination to vilify a relative who wronged us in some kind of way, um, it doesn't bring the closure, the comfort, the satisfaction, the righteousness, the whatever you're looking for a word there, an adjective, whatever it is. It never comes, and it never comes, and it never comes. Instead of turning inwards and looking realistically at the situation, not with cruelty, because that's the other thing that, if you're angry and you turn it inwards and it becomes depression, right? It's because you're being cruel to yourself. It's because you're not being fair. And you're just being hard on yourself, which I am so familiar with. Hi. That's what you need to do is find a way to forgive that. You don't even necessarily have to forgive the person or people that you're thinking about. But it's critical that you forgive at least yourself for being on this struggle or in this struggle still, and forgive the event itself, because thinking about it and being mad about it and sad about it and all the ways that you are about it is only giving the event power, and those people that were involved, that's giving them power too. And it's all that power that you're giving is your own. You can keep that and you should keep that, because that's, I think, what was going on there with Karen Carpenter. She didn't have a sense of autonomy. She didn't have a sense of power. She didn't have a sense of worthiness at all. I feel like that's why when her solo album in 1979 was, she was told by the executives, like, oh, we're shelving this. It's not, saleable, which is nonsense. If you've never heard the album, you should go listen to it. Randy Schmidt, a prominent author and director of a recent documentary all about this, was quick to mention in an interview that I just watched that the record company decided to shelve Karen Carpenter's solo album, citing it was too disco and it was too much of a departure from the Carpenter sound, which, in and of itself, it's just silliness, but we don't need to go there. But Randy Schmidt pointed out that that same year in 1979, instead of releasing her album, they released Ethel Merman's disco album. Yes, there's an Ethel Merman disco album. But she was still in that phase of taking out her need for control and power on her physical body, and she's no longer with us as a result. And she didn't get to the place like I did to be able to look at things for what they are and go, right, that was awful, but what now? Do I have to sit here and be miserable forever and ever and ever? At the time when she needed to hear information like that, like you have a choice. You don't have to do this behavior, and you don't have to listen and believe the stuff you were told throughout your life, that that you needed to lose weight, and uh, uh, that you weren't good enough, and that you were less valuable even as just a musician, not even as a human being, less valuable, just because she didn't get to hear that kind of stuff. And and that's what happens when you don't hear it at the right time. You just don't hear it at all, and something tragic like that comes to pass, and it's too bad. And I don't know, it feels like that's been a big part of my experience lately, is coming to understand just like why was I forced to go through this and learn all of this stuff. Like, we're allowed to determine whether we continue to give power to the past or not. That's what my affection for Carpenter's music, really entails. Of course, I still like the music as a standalone entity, but it's more about when I ran into the music, and sort of how I was able to understand it, because I myself was being raised at the time when I was listening to it and learning about this, and putting my own life's pieces together, and trying to figure it out the way we all do when we're growing up, uh, and struggling along with it. And there's this terrible war inside that some of us feel compelled to fight. Something clicks with the mind and goes, this isn't working anymore. This has never worked, actually. You can find a new off ramp, and be like, I've driven this road many times. That wasn't there before. In my case, it involved leaving a 20-year marriage to see, hey, there's another road over there. Okay. So, anyway, it's been nice to see you. I know this video is kind of different. I didn't write things word for word. I just went by bullet points, and I hope that was okay. I can go back to the other way. It's just this week was a particularly busy week, and I didn't have the time. So, nice to see you. I'll be back.